and I come at you, you better not duck me, son. You better not duck me, son. I'm telling you.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Keith Thurman, man, he gave a great breakdown and prediction on the Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter fight. We all know that Keith Thurman, he's been in the ring with both of them, but it was an interesting breakdown because he broke it down in 7 key categories: punching power, physical strength, defense, speed, boxing ability, ring IQ, and chin. Now, with that being said, when it comes to punching power, Thurman, he gave the edge to Danny Garcia. He said Danny can punch with both hands. He does load up, so you can't be right there in front of him. Now, the interesting thing about Keith Thurman saying that is Danny Garcia himself, he's been boasting, saying that he's the stronger puncher. He's the one with the power going into this fight. He said it many times that Sean Porter doesn't have the power that he has. And he hasn't even been in the ring with Sean Porter, but he already knows or is confident that he has the power edge going into this fight, which is congruent to what Keith Thurman just said. So the next category is physical strength. And Keith Thurman, he gave Porter the edge. He said Sean is clearly the more physical fighter. But that one right there was a no-brainer because we all know that that's what Sean Porter is known for, is his physical strength. So then we go into the category of defense. And he gave Danny Garcia the edge when it comes to defense. Keith Thurman, he said Porter's defense is his offense. With Danny, I've never seen anyone so willing to just stare at me without throwing a punch. He's committed to being second, a pure counterpuncher. Now that surprised me a little bit when Keith Thurman said that, but now that I think about it, he does counterpunch for the most part. Sometimes he does fight a little aggressive. I've seen some fights where he was fighting on his front foot, where he was first as opposed to second, but there's no doubt about it, in the Keith Thurman fight, we seen an extremely reluctant Danny Garcia. He was showing Keith Thurman a lot of respect in that fight. So I understand where Keith is coming from when he said he'll just sit there and wait, because Danny really respected Keith Thurman's power. Now we go into speed. When it comes to speed, Keith Thurman, he gave Sean Porter the edge. He said Sean is faster and a little more athletic. He'll trip on the jab to get inside and use stutter steps. Danny is real relaxed, but that doesn't necessarily come through in his hand speed. Boxing ability. Keith Thurman, he gave Danny Garcia the edge. He said neither one is known for boxing. Danny's a counterpuncher and Sean outworks you. Danny has nice boxing movement when he wants to be evasive. He's underrated when being on the back foot. We saw that against Lucas Matisse and Brandon Rios. When it comes to ring IQ, Keith Thurman said it's even. He said hard to judge. These are 2 world champions with tremendous amateur pedigrees. Then he goes into chin. Once again, he said this one is even. He said in my fights, Porter took more big punches than Garcia did. I had to hit hard to keep Porter off me. They both have enough power to hurt each other. Then Keith Thurman, he gives his prediction. He says this is one of the best matchups of the year. I try not to overthink it. It's Porter by decision or Garcia by knockout. I lean towards Porter. That was a great breakdown by Keith Thurman. He did that interview on Showtime. And it's pretty interesting because it shows you how close this fight is. When this fight was first announced, I thought Sean Porter was going to win this fight easy because I looked at how Danny Garcia looked against Brandon Rios. But the closer we got to this fight, I started to think maybe Danny Garcia has the edge now, because I started to think about Sean Porter's performance against Granados. I find myself thinking that if Danny Garcia, the Danny Garcia that beat Lucas Matisse, if he shows up, then Danny Garcia wins this fight. But you can also say the Matisse fight was a long time ago. The question is going to be, will Danny Garcia stand his ground the way Granados stood his ground? Because with Danny Garcia's power, his accuracy, he would do much better if he stood his ground. he would have a better chance of landing something with that power and possibly knocking out Sean Porter or forcing Sean Porter to respect him, just like Granados forced him to do. So we'll see next weekend. I mean, the one thing I can say is there is a lot of pressure on both fighters to win this fight. I mean, you guys may have seen that I interviewed Sean Porter's father, Kenny Porter, the other day, and when I asked him, is, the loser, will his career be over? And even though Kenny Porter, he said, I don't like to think like that, meaning he doesn't like to think about going into a fight and losing, which is understandable. But at the same time, the way he answered the question, it sounds to me like maybe, depending on how Sean Porter loses his fight, if he does lose the fight, Kenny Porter may possibly urge his son to. I mean, neither one of these fighters have ever been knocked out before, so you just never know how a fighter is going to react to being knocked out for the very first time if this fight does end in a knockout. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. Yep.